Pause for a moment. They assumed you were naive. They confused your compassion with fragility and your quiet nature with a lack of awareness. Behind the scenes, they schemed and whispered, convinced you were oblivious to their tactics. They provoked, tested boundaries, and went just far enough to learn the hard way that you are not someone to underestimate or cross without consequence. You noticed everything, the forced smiles, the hidden intentions, the silent betrayals, and you chose restraint, observing patiently, fully aware and biding your time. Now, it's too late for them. The balance has shifted, and those who once believed they were in control are now realizing, with a heavy sense of dread, that you were never the fool. You were the force they failed to anticipate, the storm that gathered quietly while they underestimated you. What's unfolding now is only the beginning of their reckoning. Someone misjudged you completely, mistaking your grace for naivety, only to discover the hard way that you are not someone to cross without consequences. From the moment they met you, they formed shallow assumptions, judging by appearances, your calm nature, your kindness, or even your age, and convinced themselves you were easy to influence or manipulate. They were wrong, and now they're facing the reality of that mistake. They leaned on shallow stereotypes and never grasped the depth, intelligence, and strength beneath your gentle exterior. Your warmth and kindness, what could be seen as a sweetheart energy, led them to completely overlook your wisdom, resilience, and inner power. Acting from deception and false intent, they believed they could exploit you without repercussions, convinced they were clever enough to get away with it, but they failed to account for your sharp insight, awareness, and ability to see far beyond the surface. Now, the consequences of that miscalculation are crashing down on them. Their plans have unraveled, leaving them to face serious fallout for underestimating you. At the core of their downfall was pure arrogance. They truly believed they were superior in every way, and that delusion fueled their manipulative schemes. From the start, everything they did was based on a false first impression, assuming you were naive and unaware. In reality, they only ever glimpsed a small fragment of who you are, and even that they misunderstood, blinded by their own ego and overconfidence. Pulled toward your light like a moth to a flame, they mistook your warmth for vulnerability and saw you as someone they could easily exploit, convinced they could take whatever they wanted from you. That misjudgment became their greatest error. So sure of their own cleverness, they never imagined you would see through their facade. At first, they wore a mask of kindness and reliability to gain your trust, deliberately taking advantage of your generous and compassionate nature. You gave from the heart, but they abused that openness, relying on manipulation and gaslighting to keep you uncertain and off balance while they spun their web of lies. Their arrogance ultimately blinded them to a simple truth. You are far more perceptive, intelligent, and strong than they ever accounted for. Whenever your intuition signaled that something wasn't right, and you began to sense their darker motives, they would quickly flip the script to protect themselves. They tugged at your heart, knowing your empathy runs deep, often using guilt as a weapon. It feels as though they first gained access to you through a fabricated tale of victimhood, designed to trigger your compassion and lower your defenses. In reality, they were projecting their own intentions outward, accusing others of the very manipulation, exploitation, and harm they themselves planned to inflict on you. In the beginning, you never imagined someone could be so calculated or harmful because your heart naturally leads with love and trust. There was a sincere softness within you, not ignorance, but a pure faith that others would not intentionally hurt you. They confused that purity with weakness and underestimated you completely. What they failed to see was your deep wisdom, sharp intelligence, and steady emotional balance, along with an innate ability to discern truth the moment a facade begins to crack. They wrongly assumed they could take advantage of your kindness without consequence, approaching you with insincerity masked as affection, overwhelming you with praise, attention, and exaggerated sweetness as part of their manipulation. But you remained centered, and once their mask started to slip, they had no idea how quickly you would recognize what was happening, or how powerful and resilient you truly are. They attempted to sweep you off your feet with excessive praise and attention, crafting the illusion of an intense bond, but your intuition quietly picked up on the hollowness beneath their words and gestures. You are not someone who rushes into emotional attachment. Your energy is steady, reflective, and deeply grounded, which kept you from fully buying into the connection the way they assumed you had. You naturally think things through, observing, analyzing, and weighing situations carefully before allowing your heart to commit. At the time, you likely didn't suspect malice, simply interpreting their behavior as eagerness or overenthusiasm rather than something darker. Their greatest misjudgment was believing they had already secured your emotions, convinced you were deeply attached, when in truth you were far more detached and aware than they ever realized. They completely overlooked your sharp mind, your depth of perception, and the strength of your intuition. You began noticing the cracks between what they said and what they did almost immediately, catching moments where their facade slipped and their true nature surfaced. Because you naturally turn inward, reading energy, observing behavior, and analyzing situations with quiet precision, you sensed something was wrong long before it became obvious. You trust your inner signals and pay close attention to patterns, and that awareness allowed you to recognize their darker intentions in time. While they moved with aggression and operated from a manipulative, harmful place, they remained oblivious to how clearly you were seeing through them, blinded by their own arrogance and the belief that you were weaker than you are. There is a genuine innocence and softness within you that they initially exploited, and when their behavior grew more forceful and unsettling, you may have felt uncertain about how to respond at first. As you always do, you slowed down, took everything in, and allowed yourself to sense the situation fully before taking action, choosing awareness over impulsive reaction. You needed space to fully process what was unfolding, to gather your inner clarity and strength before revealing the truth of who you are, a far cry from the naive image they projected onto you. For a while, you may have chosen to stay quiet, appearing compliant while carefully observing, reading their energy, collecting insight, and reinforcing your inner resolve. Deep-rooted people-pleasing patterns, often formed in early life, may have made it difficult at first to push back or confront their behavior directly. Still, you honored your own timing. Slowly but surely, your confidence and determination grew as you turned inward, strengthened your spirit, and made a conscious decision to reclaim your life from their manipulative, toxic hold. This person was deeply destructive, posing a serious threat to your peace, safety, and well-being, and they believed that escalating their aggression would keep you fearful and under their control indefinitely. They truly thought you would never stand up to them, but that belief was their greatest mistake. In reality, you reclaimed your power, took charge of your own path, and freed yourself completely, and now they are panicking because they never imagined they could lose control over you. You have stepped into a deep well of inner strength and wisdom, and that transformation is deeply unsettling for them. Fueled by an intense sense of entitlement, they believed your life, your resources, and even your identity belonged to them, seeing you not as a separate individual, but as something they could control and use at will. They leaned heavily on your stability, resilience, and ability to hold things together because without you, their own self-destructive nature would have caused their world to fall apart. When you removed yourself, or are in the process of doing so, it hit them like withdrawal, exposing just how dependent they had become on you emotionally, and possibly even financially and practically as well. They assumed you would continue cleaning up the messes they created while they lived without restraint. But once you stepped away, the emptiness you left behind sent them into a downward spiral. They no longer have any control over you, and your clarity and refusal to remain blind freed you completely from their influence. As a result, they are emotionally unstable and unraveling, with their collapse becoming visible to others. Your decision to walk away dealt a severe blow to their ego, shattering the false sense of power they built by feeding off your effort, energy, and achievements. Now that access is gone, their life feels as though it's falling apart. Twisted by their own delusions, they see your self-liberation as betrayal, casting themselves as the victim and blaming you for the consequences of their own actions. In their mind, you ruined them by no longer rescuing them, and out of spite, they may have tried to bring chaos into your life as well. Now the danger and fallout rests squarely with them, not you. because the unraveling they're facing is a direct consequence of their own decisions. The combination of wounded pride, volatile emotions, and a craving for retaliation is pushing them to reveal their true nature in public, and their increasingly erratic behavior is no longer going unnoticed. The symbolism here points to memory and closure. You stand at the center of their recollections, represented by the image of a final letter, a definitive goodbye. You chose to walk away completely, reclaiming your freedom from their control. As their mind replays the past like a looping film, they are confronted with reminders of those they've harmed before. When they lack a new source of validation or control, they tend to circle back to former targets, relying on charm and love bombing to pull them in again. But with you, that strategy failed. You saw through the facade, refused to bond the way they expected, and ended things with clarity and finality. They know they can't return because they're fully aware that you see them clearly now, and that awareness makes you dangerous to their illusions. You carry a strong voice, spoken or unspoken, and they recognize that you are no longer afraid to stand in your truth. In desperation, they may have tried to rewrite the story, projecting their own behavior onto you and attempting to damage your reputation. But that effort is unraveling. Their facade has cracked too many times, especially as their emotional instability surfaced after you walked away. And others are beginning to recognize the inconsistencies and lies. You are profoundly powerful in Earth Angel energy, and despite their attempts to ensnare you through manipulation and falsehoods, you freed yourself. Your clarity, resolve, and deep alignment with the divine have acted as your shield and your strength. Like the Ace of Swords, you cut cleanly through confusion with truth and integrity, severing the psychic cords and karmic ties once and for all. They once felt triumphant, believing there was endless energy to siphon from you and games to play to inflate their ego, convincing themselves they had diminished a powerful soul and brought hardship into your life. What they failed to grasp was the universal law of cause and effect. Every seed planted returns. They sowed destruction, and now they are reaping loss on every level. The Thief card reflects this situation with striking clarity. Everything they attempted to steal, exploit, or control is now being stripped from them, and a major part of their karma was your departure, which forced them into an abrupt withdrawal from the supply you provided. Their intense fear of abandonment and deep emotional dependency drove them to escalate into aggression, manipulation, coercion, and threats in a frantic effort to keep you trapped, all while expecting you to shoulder their responsibilities and carry their life for them. When the weight they placed on you began to exhaust you, they responded with anger and blame, accusing you of failing them rather than acknowledging the depletion they caused, treating you like an endless resource meant to endure abuse without limit. Behind a mask of kindness and innocence, they concealed a predatory nature, sometimes even boasting about their darkness. And during moments of rage, you could see the truth in their eyes. A misplaced sense of power rooted in dominance that only exposed their instability and inability to stand on their own. They relied on your strength to survive, resented you for having it, and deceived themselves into believing you were naive, never realizing that your true power lay in your depth, intuition, and inner intelligence. As they attacked, you turned inward, instinctively analyzing, sensing, and unraveling the truth, quietly working toward your freedom, guided by an intuitive awareness they were incapable of recognizing. In doing so, you became the very karma meant to expose them, the light that revealed their lies and collapsed the false foundation of their life, which continues to fall apart as they attempt to latch onto others' stability rather than face themselves. While they avoid introspection to escape their own darkness and shame, you understand that true growth comes from self-reflection, and it is this depth and self-awareness that ultimately set you free and left them lost in their own delusion.